Welcome to the Diversity Leadership Society's United for Action and Impact event. And for those of you who've been around United Way for a while, you know that formerly this was called, what was it called? Danishes and Diversity. Yes, I love a good Danish, by the way. We'll have to do this in the morning and bring those back. Oh, thank you, Rob. All right, perfect. There, now I can actually see all of you. So I'm Nancy Hernandez, and I'm the head of the Hispanic Collaborative, and I also own an ad agency called Abrazo Marketing. And first thing I want to do is thank Northwestern Mutual for hosting us today. Beautiful space, beautiful building. Thank you so much. You always do so much for the community, and we're always happy. I heard some folks talking about first time in the old part of the building, older part, historic part, I think is the official name for it. And it's absolutely gorgeous. So thank you again for having us here. I am, for those of you that don't know, I am a 2022 United Way campaign co-chair this year. And one of the reasons that I chose to do this or get involved with United Way is a little bit about my background. I grew up right over in Walker's Point, and I grew up in a home where we were taught with any kind of privilege, right? And as you get older, as I'm learning with my own 14-year-old, you get different privileges, right? But with every privilege comes responsibility, right? And that's something that I have taken to heart throughout my entire life. And that's one of the reasons that I chose to become involved with United Way and give back. There's one more reason as well, though, and I'll illustrate it by, I was having a conversation this morning, taking my daughter to school. And she plays, for those of you who are my Facebook friends, you know, my daughter plays hockey. And we were just talking about, she's stressed out. She's a brand new freshman. Math is getting the best of her. And we were talking about how she's going to have a lull, short few weeks to get her bearings straight between tennis that she's in right now and before hockey gets ramped up. And so we were talking about that, and we're talking about when her weekly practices start. So she's got some time. And we started talking about that if anybody has ever carried big, stinky hockey gear, it's not fun. You don't want it in your car or in your house. So I'm excited that when they start that can go live there at the school in their locker. And she said, yeah, I think that we'll get to put it back in there at that time. And I said, great. So we started talking about the locker room. And she said, well, Mom, you know, the boys is a lot bigger, and they didn't have to take their stuff out of their, vacate the locker to give it up to the middle school football team or something. And I said, oh, okay. And she says, well, I said, really? I said, they didn't have to vacate theirs? No, Mom. So I asked her about the locker room, and she said, well, Mom, it's a rule. The boys' locker room is just bigger. And I said, well, what do you mean it's a rule? Well, that's how it always is. Theirs is just bigger and nicer. They have a ping pong table in there. And I said, time out. I said, it's not a rule, and let's not think about that, and let's not talk about it that way. I said, we think it's a rule because nobody's ever challenged it and said, we're looking at this, and this is kind of the outcome and the way it is, but is it really the way it's supposed to be? I said, so think about that. It's only a rule if you don't challenge it and say, why does this outcome keep happening? So that's my long story of why I'm also involved with United Way, because United Way takes the time to challenge those questions and to look at things and say, well, we shouldn't be having these outcomes around education with their investment in community schools. We shouldn't have this outcome in male employment or in reentry back into workforce. And United Way is challenging those statistics and investing in ways to solve through that so we have better outcomes. So thank you so much for picking up those hard challenges, United Way. Every conversation about United Way typically always begins with a community fund because this fund supports over 200 programs at more than 100 local nonprofits. Last year, over 200,000 people were served by United Way funded programs and partnerships. And the Community Way is just one segment of that work. Again, it's because it's not afraid to tackle those really big issues and issues that help people find their way back to prosper and maintain dignity. Much like finding a good job and paying a livable wage and one that treats people with respect. So at United for Action and Impact, we gather to introduce diverse minority-owned businesses, stakeholders, and donors to the work of United Way's Diversity Leadership Society. The result is an increased pool of donors, advocates, and volunteers who believe in this mission and support the initiatives around financial stability and reducing barriers for employment and advancement. Later today, you're going to hear from two newly funded grantees, La Casa de Esperanza and Mobilize, and hear from members of the Diversity Leadership Society Council. Try saying that 5 times fast. You'll also learn how you yourselves can get involved in our fundraising campaign, join many of the volunteer efforts and options, and celebrate outstanding African-American nonprofit leaders in our community. So thank you so much for being here today. And thanks for your support of United Way. And I look forward to staying connected with you, not just through the campaign, but in years to come.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Diana Dela Cruz. I'm a software engineering manager here at Northwestern Mutual. I'm going to talk a little bit more about myself in just a moment, but first I want to talk about the NM Foundation and its partnership with United Way. NM has been a longtime supporter of United Way going back over 100 years. Our CFO, Mike Carter, is one of the campaign co-chairs this year for the community campaign. Not only do we provide direct support to United Way, but our NM Foundation supports several partner agencies through work in neighborhoods and education. Through targeted grant making and collaboration, NM supports the residents of Amani, Metcalf Park, and Muskego Way. Partners from United Way's racial equity portfolio, such as Dominican Center and Metcalf Community Bridges, are key anchor organizations from our neighborhood's portfolio. Likewise, our pipeline education strategy includes many longtime NM or United Way partners, such as Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Metro Milwaukee, Next Door, United Community Center, and Boys and Girls Club. Our foundation's mission is to improve the lives of children and families in need through financial support, volunteerism, and collaboration with community partners to build stronger communities, United Way being one of those community partners. I'm where I am in my career here at NM thanks to that mission statement of the NM Foundation. Back in 2001, when I didn't know how I was going to afford college, I applied for and received a full ride to UW-Milwaukee thanks to the NM Foundation, sorry. It's because of this, I was able to afford college. And I'm sorry. This plays a role in our theme for the campaign this year, and it's investing in our future. And as I reflected back over my 17-year career here, it's been my personal mission statement to invest in the future as well and in the community. I've done this through volunteering at Big Brothers and Big Sisters for 4 years to a fellow Latina to help her navigate how she can go to college as well. I've taken many leadership roles in our Hispanic ERG, And I've been part of the executive committee that helps run these United Way corporate campaigns within NM for the last 9 years. And in this 9th year, I am actually leading our campaign and our charge to raise over $1.1 million for the campaign. By investing in United Way and our community as a result, each of you are helping more people like me become future leaders in our community. So thank you for being here and for considering your donations. Up next, another example of our NM United Way partnership, one of the co-chairs of the Diversity Leadership Society, Ron Adams.
Thank you, thank you. All right, it's afternoon, right? Okay, yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. How y'all doing? We are small but mighty. My name is Ron Adams. I'm Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion for Northwestern Mutual and our career distribution arm of our business. Excited to have you all today because I'm also the co-chair for the Diversity Leadership Society, where I find it an honor and privilege to be a part of that team that's doing such great work in our community. The Diversity Leadership Society's Reducing Barriers to Employment and Advancement initiative is anchored in the belief that all adults of working age should have the opportunity to obtain permanent employment with a livable wage at a workplace where they are treated with dignity and have opportunities for advancement. So everything we do is rooted in that belief. The initiative aims to identify, connect, and empower organizations that are successfully removing these barriers to employment and building bridges to close the opportunity gaps. These efforts would not be possible without the Diversity Leadership Society Council and the leadership of Samantha Mitchell, who guides us, so we appreciate you. In just a moment, you will hear about Henry's path to employment. Henry turned to JobsWorks Milwaukee for assistance. JobsWorks is one of the agencies funded through the United Way's Reducing Barriers to Employment and Advancement initiative. I'm gonna get my notes because I can't see anymore what you have down there. I'm gonna get the rest of my notes because I don't want to miss anything. At JobsWorks Milwaukee, Henry was matched with job coach Jose, who not only helped Henry find a job he would enjoy, but pushed Henry to strive for advancement. So let's meet Henry. Who has a clicker? Okay.
My name is Henry. I'm an outgoing person, happy, family orientated. I love the peaceful things like going to the lake. You know, I'm a hard worker. I love to work, working with my hands. I'm a protector, provider. Family mean the world to me. You know, that's the reason I wake up in the morning. I wake up just to make sure they're straight. JobsWorks is totally different than what I expected. You know, when I first came in there, I thought it was gonna be boring. I thought it wasn't gonna benefit me. But out the gate, they just was a resource to me. You know.
So what makes JobsWorks MKE different from other employment programs is the fact that we stay with individuals longer, the fact that we go a lot deeper with them as it relates to whatever issues they might have that might not be job specific, but might be in getting involved or in the way of them getting good through work.
Well, be honest, before JobWorks, I was a street person. I was involved in a lot of drug selling stuff. That was part of my journey. The main thing that kept me going was my kids. I was in jail so much, I was missing a lot of their life. So, what I'm saying? I'm like, I need to do better. They put me in a job placement, in a job that I'm there now, when I started there at the job, I was making $11.50 when I started that job, but now I'm the supervisor of it. I'm close to 30 already, and they kept on pushing me step by step. When I first came crew member, they, they like, you can move on to the technician. And I got there, they like, you can go farther than that. You can be the crew lead. I got there and they like, you can be the supervisor. They just kept pushing me every step of the way. They just showed me like, you got the potential, They kept telling me you got potential, you know what I'm saying? You just gotta look in yourself and find it. You got it, we see it in you.
What it means to have dignity in your work is first and foremost, understanding that you matter, understanding that what you bring to the table will be heard. Whether you are a grocery store stock clerk or whether you are a healthcare professional, dignity belongs in your life. It belongs in everything that you do when you report to work.
Dignity means a lot, you know what I'm saying? Because I know my worth and value, What I bring is like my hard work and dedication. I'm responsible. I love leading by example. I give my all. I'm a detailed person. I just strive to go on and on. My goal from next year, I want to own my own house. Within 5 and 10 years, I want to own my own construction company. Advice I give to my kids is follow my footsteps, but be greater than me. Anything is possible, sky's the limit.
Wow, that's awesome. Today, life is good for Henry. He has a job he enjoys, and most importantly, he gets to spend plenty of time with his family. The Reducing Barriers to Employment and Advancement Initiative supports local programs at organizations like JobsWork Milwaukee that helps individuals overcome barriers to find and maintain family-sustaining employment and access opportunities for advancement. They sparked something in Henry. Henry wants to own his own business now. So this work makes a difference. Henry and Jose still talk on a weekly basis, and Henry knows he can turn to JobsWork Milwaukee whenever he encounters a challenge in work or in life. So we are excited to spend some time with Sherry Campbell, President and CEO of La Casa de Esperanza. I didn't want to say it after I heard it when she said it earlier. She's made it sound real cool. So, but we're also going to hear from Dave Steele, Executive Director of Mobilize. I'm going to invite them on stage now. We're going to have a panel, so you can start making your way to the stage. And I'm going to also invite my fellow co-chair of the Diversity Leadership Society, Sam Maldonado, who will moderate this discussion. Thank you.
So as Ron had previously mentioned, my name is Samantha Maldonado. I'm the Senior Manager of Diversity and Inclusion at Kohl's and a Diversity Leadership Society co-chair. So I'm very happy to be here. And I have the esteemed honor and pleasure to introduce Sherry Campbell, as well as Dave Steele. So Sherry, could you share a few moments and introduce yourself, please?
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us here. Really appreciate the opportunity. My name is Sherry Campbell. President and CEO of La Casa de Esperanza in Waukesha, serving through our various programs, Milwaukee, Jefferson, and Waukesha counties. And my background is in education. I've been at La Casa for 22 years and just had the honor, even though we were talking about some of the challenges of the workforce and other things, just an incredible honor an opportunity to lead La Casa along with a great senior leadership team. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Dave?
Great. Thank you, Sam. Hello, everybody. Great to be here. Thank you to Northwestern Mutual for hosting this. And thanks to Sam and everybody at United Way for your support of Mobilize and all of the other amazing programs. Mobilize is a nonprofit organization that oversees a program called Flex Ride Milwaukee, which is transforming the transportation barrier to employment in our region. I like to say that we're taking a 2-hour slog, and when you see those super commutes that you might see about on the news where, the person takes a bus an hour and a half and then walks half an hour and, literally a 2-hour commute one way, if you imagine that's 4 hours of your life, your day in commuting. And we're taking that and turning that into 20 minutes, half an hour. By providing you a ride from the city to anywhere currently within Menominee Falls, thanks to the support of the United Way and our other supporters. And we are set to greatly expand that to other regions throughout the metro area of Milwaukee. More than half of the jobs in our region are currently inaccessible by transit. And when I say inaccessible, it means you either physically cannot get there or it is, many, many hours to get there. Most of the jobs that are inaccessible by transit also happen to be in the manufacturing and warehousing space where there's a lot of entry-level jobs, good, well-paying jobs, but currently inaccessible unless you have a car. So that's what we're looking to address with FlexRide, and thanks to the support of United Way, we've made a lot of progress on that.
Thank you, Dave. So just being mindful of time, would love to get into the questions that we have at hand. We have 4 questions. Would love to hear from both of you on each of them. So first, Sherry, what impact does the United Way funding make possible that wouldn't be possible otherwise for La Casa?
Well, first, I just want to make a slight clarification. We've enjoyed the support of the United Way for many, many, many years. And we're really excited that we're a new grantee for the Removing Barriers to Employment and Advancement. The United Way has been just such an incredible partner and allowing us to specifically fund our Center for Financial Stability, our early childhood and school age education programs, and workforce. However, beyond, and I know we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the next question, but beyond those specific programs, it allows us to leverage our own resources and resources from other organizations as partners. And so if we have a child in our charter school whose parent is laid off or has other issues, we're able to refer them to our own United Way funded program. So in addition to funding those specific programs, it helps our whole organization, all of the programs that we provide, and likewise to other organizations as well.
Thank you for that. It just gives the extra bump, the amplification that we all need, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you for that. Dave, same question. So what impact does the United Way funding make possible that wouldn't be possible otherwise?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, of course, the financial support is huge in any transportation program because transportation costs money. You have to pay the drivers. You have to maintain the vehicles. There's no way around that. And the transit system in Milwaukee is a very solid transit system that operates within the city of Milwaukee and Milwaukee County. But the further out you get, those connections get a little more spotty. Mm-hmm. And that, requires a ride, to get there. And that, requires drivers and vehicles, of course. But beyond that, I really call it relationships and connections, which has been absolutely huge for Mobilize. Pre-pandemic, 3 years ago, feels like 30. I joined the RBEA task force, and the RBEA task force had identified transportation as one of the 4 barriers to focus on as a barrier to employment. And I really appreciated being in a room where I didn't have to, work so hard to convince people that transportation was such a barrier. They were already there. They had done the homework. They had spoken with community members and people like Henry. Transportation is one of those things that is sort of an unseen barrier for a lot of us. Unless you've lived that life, and I, growing up on the south side of Milwaukee, single parent family, I was riding the bus every day. It was a green limousine, right? Milwaukee County Transit System. And, you know, I've been there, you know, my younger days of hours-long commutes on the bus. Unless you've lived that life, it's hard to know, you know, what those barriers look like. And unless you've walked for 2 miles at, you know, 10 degrees above zero in Menomonee Falls with no sidewalks, you might not know about that. And, you know, what I appreciate about the United Way Racial Equity Work Group, the RBEA work group, that I was honored to ask to join, you know, was that most of the committee was already there. They understood that it was a barrier. So then we began to make those connections with other groups like JobsWorks and Employ Milwaukee. And that's been huge for our efforts because it allows us to learn more about the issue and really understand what types of services people are going to want to use and use daily. And also, you know, get the word out about our program, you know, among the people who benefit from it the most, like the clients at JobsWorks MKE. So the connections and I guess I'll call it almost like a think tank, right? This committee, this RBA task force that really zeroed in on those employment barriers, you know, was huge.
Thank you. And we'll stick with you for this next one. How is Mobilize serving our BIPOC community?
Yeah. Thanks for that. Transportation is a huge racial equity issue and often unseen in our communities. And I think for a lot of us who are fortunate to be middle class and good paying jobs, cars are freedom. They equate to freedom for us. But, you know, we often forget that cars cost money. Unreliable cars can cost a lot more money than a, you know, more reliable car. And it becomes kind of a trap for folks. And then you factor in, you know, getting pulled over by the police and, you know, you might lose your license with, you know, unable to pay a ticket. And these issues compound themselves. You know, AAA always every year comes out with a cost of owning a car estimate. And the last time they did this back pre-pandemic in 19 was $7,500 a year to own a car in the United States. That was before the pandemic. It's probably gone up since then. So, you know, if we're all supposed to be paying 20% of our income on transportation, it just doesn't pencil out for a lot of people in Milwaukee, including, you know, individuals who have, you know, pretty good paying jobs. And those effects disproportionately impact our communities of color in Milwaukee. It's a fact. I mean, if you look at where households, you know, are concentrated that lack access to automobiles, it's disproportionately Black and brown communities in our city. When bus routes are cut back or reduced due to lack of funding or political will, those negative economic effects disproportionately affect communities of color in our city. And, you know, just the whole experience of transportation, of safety. There are huge disparities in car versus pedestrian crashes, you know, that lead to, you know, injury and worse, you know, and those effects, those negative effects of just kind of traffic safety and just, you know, crossing the street safely disproportionately affects communities of color in Milwaukee. So it's a huge unseen issue. And our program really looks to address that head on by, you know, really getting to the brass tacks here. How do we turn a 2-hour-long slog, you know, out to Menomonee Falls into one that's much more manageable, that doesn't require a 2-hour-long walk? We're also actively working to include local transportation companies in our work. As part of our grant with Workforce Innovation Grant that we received from the state, you know, we're connecting subcontractors from disadvantaged or from underrepresented communities in our city with gap financing to help them scale up, buy the vans and hire the drivers and actually then participate in our expanded FlexRide program. So I think that all of us in this space have an obligation. I always like to think, you know, you wake up every day, you make a million decisions, and every decision you make can either make things better and more equitable, can be kind of neutral, or even make it worse. So how do we ensure that more you're finishing every day in the right side of that column?
Thank you, Dave. Sherry, same question. How is La Casa de la Esperanza serving our BIPOC community?
First, I think just by virtue of our existence, particularly in very conservative county like Waukesha, simply the fact that we're there as a safe place for our Latino population is the first way that we serve. Our doors are open. We're trusted for whatever issues they might be facing. So, so that's like the umbrella under which we operate. And then in the interest of time, I won't talk about all of our programs, but I'll talk about the ones funded by United Way, our early childhood education program. We're so excited that we're 5-star nationally accredited. And that's great to say because it makes you feel really good. But what it really means is those kiddos that are typically in the least quality programs and starting public school behind can be in the highest quality setting. And it's beautiful because we have about 10% of our population who aren't low income and who aren't children of color. And they're learning and growing right alongside that mom who's bringing her one child in a Mercedes and the mom who's getting off the bus and strolling 3 children to our center, and they're all learning and growing together. And it's a beautiful thing. And so in that program, we've relied on United Way funding, and we continue to because early childhood is a tough field right now. But it's so critical, just that's my background, that's my passion. So, and then obviously, I think education really is the great equalizer. And so our goal is to work ourselves out of a job. And these children aren't going to need us as adults. They're going to be our donors. They're going to be our board members. They're going to be our volunteers. And so that's our dream. And then the Center for Financial Stability, which is specifically receiving the funding from the Removing Barriers to Employment and Advancement. I think those are 2 different things tied together, but one is employment because we can get employment, but the advancement is the tough part. So to challenge, we find that we believe that when we help someone to find a job, that's the first step because it's probably not a family sustaining job. They need quality early childhood education. They need to maybe get their driver's license or participate in a program like this so they're not limited to jobs on a bus line. They need to improve their English. They need to get their GED, all of those kinds of things. And now once they have a job and we help them to manage their money, we help them to get free income tax assistance and maximize the returns that they're able to get back that they might not have gotten had they gone to a commercial tax preparer. We help them to budget their money because they might be in that Alice where their car breaks down one time and they lose their job and now they fall into poverty. So really the advancement part is huge because in order to really reduce the economic disparity, they need to be beyond the servers in the restaurant. They need to be the managers in the restaurants. And so those are just a few of the ways because I could talk all day long.
That's great.
But yeah, thank you so much to the United Way for the incredible support that is going to allow us to build capacity in that really important program.
Thank you. And thank you to you both for keeping this work front of mind and as an important pillar in the strategy of both of your organizations. So thank you. Third question. It's a little bit longer, so I'll repeat if we need to. As you think about the unique needs that our grantees serve in reducing barriers to employment and advancement, what advice would you provide to the grantees and other Greater Milwaukee agencies regarding the importance of collaboration for deeper and broader impact? So the main crux of that is, what advice would you give to other agencies regarding the importance of collaboration for deeper and broader impact? Yep, go ahead, Sharon.
So I think it's so critical, first of all, with limited resources and nearly unlimited needs to ensure that we're using every dollar to the maximum impact. And so we need to make sure there's not duplication of services. We need to make sure there aren't gaps in services. And the only way to do that is to really know what everyone is doing and to be working together so that we're not duplicating. I often, I'll hear someone say this parents is not showing up to teachers' conferences. They're not engaged in this. How can you be engaged in your child's education if there might be drug addiction issues? You might be worrying about how to put food on your table. You might have mental health issues in your household or homelessness. And so again, finding a job is one thing, or finding a childcare is one thing, but it takes a holistic approach to really meet the needs of these families. And it's not just a one-pronged attack. And we all have to work together because none of us do all of that. And we have to figure out what we do best and do it, and then know what everyone else does best so they can do it. And because really, when we're talking advancement, we're talking, it's a process, and it's not just a one-time service. So I think it's just critical. And also, different programs are difficult to navigate. They were difficult for me, and I had, a 2-income family and a 2-car family and a 2-parent household. And when people are trying to navigate all of the different systems of all of our different organizations, if we can just work together and make that easier for them, that's huge.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I always go by the saying of rising tide raises all ships, right?
Absolutely.
So it's many hands make light work. How many adages can we say, right? But it's many hands make light work. And I always like to say that. So it's not one person that has to carry that load, but we're all in it together. Everyone's
Absolutely.
responsibility. Thank you, Sherry. Dave, same question.
Yeah, it's a great question. Break down silos, just continue to build relationships. You never know what sorts of challenges individuals face just in their daily lives. I think a lot of times, in like most cities in the United States, we just kind of assume that if you showed up to the meeting, or showed up to your appointment, you drove there. Understand that not everyone either can or want to or can afford to, have their own car. So, just be aware of that as you're planning things out. My previous work at PAVE, in the education space, you often, we would encounter often, those transportation issues that even then work their way into the education space. It's all interconnected. So, just appreciate that, there's a lot of different ways of getting around. We're all, we all should feel entitled to a safe and reliable way of getting around, whether it's your own car or the city bus, and just get involved at the local level. These are super localized decisions that we make in our region. And I'm talking with local politicians all the time in the city and the suburbs. I see Sean, Alderman Lowe back there nodding his head. These are really, really, really localized decisions. And the politicians, the mayors of suburban communities in Waukesha County, they'll tell me, they'll be like, we want more bus routes, we want affordable housing, but guaranteed when we bring up affordable housing or transportation, that's when the kind of crazies come out and send nasty emails and show up to City Hall. And that means, what that tells me is that, okay, so we know that if there's a new bus route being proposed or an affordable housing development being proposed in the suburbs of Milwaukee, I think we can, history shows us that 50 people are going to show up and holler and say negative things about it. And my thing is, okay, 50, I think we can do 60. I think we can double that. I think we can get 100 people to come out and say that they're in favor of it. And I think all too often, they only hear the negative. They only hear the people that are, huffing and puffing and are maybe not the purest of heart in their motivations. That's what they hear. And they need to hear from people in this room and your neighbors. So if there's a new bus route being proposed and you happen to live in Brookfield, I'm not picking on Brookfield particularly, but just to kind of pick a random suburban community, and let's say that they're proposing a new bus route and you're talking with your neighbors, at church or, at your school or whatever, and somebody's like, oh, they want to do this bus route and, we don't like that, or we don't want to have that. Well, get involved and educate your neighbors and maybe show up to City Hall and send an email in support of it. This is good for economic development. This is good to connect our community better with the city for, folks reaching jobs in our community. It's good for, our community as a whole. That can then make a difference. And just all too often, like I said, only the negative stuff is heard. So, build relationships, get involved, and, never assume that, even if you have an employee at your work or at your place of business, and, they seem like reliable, they're showing up every day, and, you never know what is going on behind the scenes, that they're literally one disastrous car issue away from not being able to do that. And if they stop appearing to work one day, don't just chalk it up to like, oh, well, there's employee turnover, or, but ask questions. And not enough business leaders, I think, in our region, our city, more are doing this, but we need to ask more questions. We had an outstanding partner at Potawatomi Casino, Rodney Ferguson, who brought the frontline workers together into a room and just listened to what was going on in their lives that was preventing them from being able to reliably appear to work every day. So rather than just kind of write it off or say, well, that's high turnover, what are you going to do? That's just the nature of the business. He took it a step further and really listened. And that's when they discovered all of the challenges people were having in getting there from a transportation standpoint. And then they instituted a program, a partnership with Lyft, that our organization helped to create. That this predates FlexRide Milwaukee, kind of the proto FlexRide Milwaukee, where you get vouchers then through Lyft, all employees at Potawatomi. But it all started with listening and a conversation and peeling back the layers and saying, okay, so what's going on here? And when you do that, you'll see time and time again a lot of stuff you may have not even realized, including the transportation barriers that a lot of people in Milwaukee and really our whole region experience every day.
Thank you for that. It sounds like kind of asking the question why and just continuing to dig deeper and not just assuming from what the outside looks like, but really getting to the nucleus of the genesis and not just the symptom. So thank you for that. And last question, Dave, if you want to kick this one off again, and then we'll go to Sherry. How can someone get involved with Mobilize to build on even more impact?
Well, I think, like I said, get involved, speak up, know that FlexRide is out there as an option. If you're working with somebody, if there's somebody in your family, your social circle, is looking for a higher paying job, or they lack a car, or they have transportation issues, know that FlexRide Milwaukee is out there. It is growing. FlexRideMKE.com. We branded it something catchy, FlexRide Milwaukee, right? To really hope that it catches on. And just continue to let our elected leaders know that this is important. I'm not telling you to go lobby, but just continue to ensure that our local governments have the resources they need to get the job done. And that's going to require some changes in how we fund this stuff in our state. So just get involved in that, and especially if you live in Waukesha County, or other conservative parts of our state, get involved and raise your voice for that. Of course, the United Way's financial support has been, huge. We had a huge breakthrough with the Workforce Innovation Grant, received $4.2 million from the state to expand FlexRide, which is awesome and amazing. And we really are appreciative of those dollars. But to really make this sustainable is going to require a very broad base of support. We don't want to have a program that kind of gets up and running and then goes away due to lack of support. And that's going to mean, all hands on deck. And that's a huge component of it as well.
Thank you, Dave. Sherry, same question. How can someone get involved with ACASA and build on even more impact?
First, come and visit us, please. A picture is worth 1,000 words. It's my job to say there are incredible things happening, but there really are. And when you walk through those classrooms and see all of our children, our Caucasian, our children of color, learning and growing together, when you feel it, when you see people so gracious for their jobs, for buying their first home that we help them with. So just come and visit us. First and foremost, anytime, we'll drop what we're doing and give you a tour. Volunteer, we are always looking for volunteers. We always need more people to help our students with homework after school, to play bingo with our seniors, volunteer, whatever is your interest. I'm confident we could find a place for you to come and volunteer. We would love to groom people as board members, to advise us, to help shape our policy. And of course, I know it's the United Way blackout period, so give after October 31st. No, but seriously, give to the United Way. It's just, it's amazing the things that we can do with that incredible support. And I never realized how much I move my hands when I talk.
It's the passion. It's the passion. I'm very much too a hand talker, so that's all good. You're in common company. But thank you again, just being mindful of our time. I know I want to give the floor to our other co-chairs. So thank you both, Sherry and Dave, for providing an overview of your work, inspiring and providing us additional insights on the impact that you're making. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Samantha, for that interview, and thank you to Sherry and Dave for the incredible work that you do. I know I'm not as height challenged, but I will follow the lead of everyone else and not be behind the podium. My name is Devona Wright Cottrell, and I am General Counsel and Chief Legal Officer for GMR Marketing, and I also have the pleasure to be one of the co-chairs for Diversity Leadership Society and the honor and pleasure of being on the United Way board. I'll start out first by telling you a quick story, which will give you insight into why I've been involved in this work for several years and why United Way is very close to my heart. So I had a sister who was injured 4 years ago. Very productive member of society, career-oriented, all those things, but she was injured in 2018 and became homebound and completely disabled and had to depend on others to take care of all the needs of her daily living 24/7. And between 2018 and today, she's been through 30 plus home care aides in helping her to assist with her daily care needs. And initially, as I was going through this process as her power of attorney and the one assisting with the hiring of all these individuals, what I began to do was peel back the onion to see these people are not just individuals who don't care about healthcare or they don't care about the work that it is that they do. They're limited by all the barriers that they are confronted with before and after they leave my sister's home to take care of her, which is housing, which is transportation, and all those other things, understanding that they are a paycheck away from their step in poverty. And these are low wage jobs. And so I bring that up because United Way and DLS Council strongly believe in the collective impact. And the first step to achieving that is as simple as being present and aware. So first, thank you to everyone who took it out of their day to be here on today, and for believing in the mission and for your continued support for Diversity Leadership Society. The work that we do is incredibly impactful and definitely needed across our community. The Diversity Leadership Society raises over $3 million annually, with close to $1 million that is designated specifically to REBA, which is reducing barriers to employment and advancement. And the panel spoke to this. It's not just employment, it's advancement, because you can get a job, but not all jobs are life-sustaining jobs that leaves individuals with dignity and respect and the ability to provide for their family. This year, that allowed us to fund 12 organizations, the most organization that we've ever funded in the history of DLS, totaling $850,000. And you can learn more about all of their programs on the United Way website, and you see a list here on the screen. As you all prepare to donate to United Way through your workplace campaigns or personally, I've had the privilege and honor to be able to do both. I've been involved in workplace campaigns for 20 years leading up to my current role. At my current employer, we don't have a workplace campaign, but we're working on it. And so that leads to the personal giving outside of that. But I hope you'll all consider opting into Diversity Leadership Society at the leadership donor level and designating a portion of your gifts specifically to reducing barriers to employment and advancement initiative. And I'll say this, and it's kind of off script, so Sam, you can yell at me later if, a lot of times people at work are challenged because they may belong to Women's United or Tech United. If you are involved in more than one organization, well, you do have the ability to be involved in more than one organization. So if it's Women United, you can also be a part of DLS, like we're all in this together. So don't feel like you just have to check the box for one. we would very much welcome you to DLS if you are a member of one of the other groups as well. And so on behalf of United Way and Diversity Leadership Society Council, I'd like to give special thanks to Reducing Barriers to Employment and Advancement sponsor Manpower. Manpower Group, if there's anyone here from Manpower, thank you so much. And an additional thank you from Johnson Controls. Same thing, anyone here from Johnson Controls, we really appreciate you for the increased diversity business match. Thank you to both companies for their generosity. We would not be able to do the work that we do without the two of them. Also, stay tuned for our Linda McFerrin Award nominations. They will open soon. This is an award that Corey and Michelle Nettles started back in 2018. And Corey Nettles is a former United Way board chair to honor the work of Linda McFerrin and she was dedicated to 40 years within the United Way. So we love to receive lots of nominations. So please keep a lookout for that. And then you can get more information about the award and the criteria and even more about Linda McFerrin on the United Way's website. In addition, be sure to take advantage of the Johnson Controls Diversity Business Match when you donate to the United Way this year. We are tripling new and increased corporate gifts from female-led and minority-led businesses up to $5,000 per company for a total of $100,000. So that is going to be huge. The matching dollars specifically support our Reducing Barriers to Employment initiative. So please help get the word out. Again, there's more on that on the United Way's website to get more information, but please share that. And then stay connected to our work by visiting the Diversity Leadership Society's webpage within the United Way's webpage. That'll give you more information about who we are, all of our initiatives, who all the members are. We're always looking for more people. So if you're interested, please connect with any of us. You can connect with Sam Mitchell, myself, Ron, or Samantha Maldonado, or the United Way. So that's my shameless plug for volunteers. And I know I'm in the way to your evening commute, probably back home. So thank you for being here. We appreciate you so much and have a good evening.